So if you've been on the internet lately and you've watched a lot of those AI generated videos about how great the 1980s were and how everything was affordable and life was simple and inflation was low and all that. And if you've kind of been in like the traditional masculine, like kind of red pill community, you'll notice they'll glorify one concept of, oh, back in the 1980s, a man could go work in a factory or become a carpenter. He could afford a home in a nice suburban neighborhood. His wife didn't have to work. He could afford 3 kids, and life was good. Now, I'm not going to argue against that or for that. But what I am going to say is it's not the 1980s anymore. It's not the 90s. It's not the 70s. It's not the 1960s anymore. That time is gone. As a matter of fact, we're a quarter century beyond that time. It's been 25 years since the 90s ended. It's been 25 years. We're a quarter century beyond that time. So I think what needs to happen is, as young men especially, like if you're a young man like me, for example, and you want to like kind of have that traditional lifestyle of you go to work, you make the money, she stays at home, raises the kids with the house and everything. Like if you want that sort of like traditional like life that like I do want to, you can't be clinging to the past. Like I see this so much. Like I really do. I see a lot of guys like Gen Zers my age, a lot of millennials, still thinking that if I work hard in the factory and if I go become a plumber or like go become like some corporate executive, whatever, I'll be able to afford the same things my parents could afford. But that's not true because it's not the 1980s anymore. So we as young men, and I honestly should say people in general, because this can extend to like everybody, like even women too, like everybody, we do need to adapt. We do need to understand that the world is not the same as it was when our parents were growing up. And the world is vastly, vastly different. And we need to be adapting to the changes that come with the world. So one example I could give is everybody's freaking out about how AI is going to take jobs. AI is going to put everybody out of jobs and stuff. It's going to create a mass unemployment crisis. But those who adapt to this world and like say for this is by the way, this is an example. I'm not saying you have to fully focus on AI, but this is just an example. The person who focuses on like learning and coding and developing and embracing this world we live in of like AI, for example, is going to become more successful and might be able to like achieve that like, you know, like ideal traditional masculine life than the guy who just kind of is like an ostrich with his head in the sand and doesn't adapt and thinks, nope, as long as I work in the factory for 30, 40 years, I'll be able to afford everything my parents could. I really, really think that our generation as like Gen Z, but Gen Z young men too, more particularly, I say Gen Z young men because like a lot of us like want the traditional lifestyle, but like we just don't know how to get it. We need to adapt to how the world is now. It's 2025. The world is not the same as it was in the 1980s. So I think more and more people do need to adapt. So in this new world, like I said, I'm not going to argue which is better, whether the 80s or the 2020 or 80s or 2025 is better. Like that's up for, that's entirely subjective, and I'm going to leave that opinion up to you. But what I'm going to say is if you want to succeed in today's world, you got to learn to adapt and change with the tide, like change with the world. Because if you are just going to be like stubborn and stuck in the past, you are going to be left behind. Like literally, you're going to be left behind in the past. So I think young men need to adapt more, and we need to continuously learn, and we need to continuously update our knowledge and find out how we can float in this new world of AI, for example, and understand that it just is not the 1980s anymore. It's not the 90s, it's not the 70s, it's not the 60s. Like this, the world is vastly, vastly different. So you can either adapt or you can be stuck in the past.